This story is titled, Fiancée Took a Break, Vanished for Weeks. Met her ex, now wants to resume our wedding plans. I'm ready to walk away. Hey everyone, before we jump into today's video, I need your help. We've noticed the channel is losing some traction, and subscribing is one of the best ways you can support us. It's quick, free, and it helps us keep bringing you awesome content. Your support means the world. Let's keep this channel growing together. Thanks so much. Now let's start the video. Hey everyone, I'm not the kind of guy who usually posts stuff like this, but things have been so weird lately that I need to get it off my chest. Maybe someone out there has been through something similar and can give me some advice. Or at least tell me I'm not crazy. So, here's the deal. My fiancée, Lily, 27 female, and I, 29 male, have been together for 3 years. She's smart, funny, and has this way of making you feel like you're the only person in the room. I proposed last year, and we started planning a summer wedding. Everything was going great. At least I thought it was. One day, Lily tells me she's going to her hometown to spend time with her sister. Now Lily's really close with her family, and she hadn't been back in a while, so it didn't seem weird. She packed a bag, gave me a kiss, and told me she'd be back in a couple of weeks. At first, I didn't think much of it. We still texted here and there, and she called me the first night to let me know she got there safely. The next day, though, things started to feel off. She called me in the afternoon. She was like, "Hey, I need to talk to you about something." I went, "Sure, what's up?" That's when she drops this. "I think I need some time to think." I was trying to process, so I asked, "Think about what? Is this about the wedding? Are you feeling stressed? Did I do something?" She doesn't really answer, just says, "I feel like I need some time for myself." I didn't want to push too hard, so I said, "Okay, if you need space, I get it. Just let me know what's going on." She promises we'll talk soon, but the whole thing feels off. The conversation ended on a weird note. I sat there like, what the hell just happened? After that, communication pretty much stopped. I texted her a few times, just normal stuff like, "Hey, how's it going?" Or, "Hope you're having a good day." But she never replied. I tried calling her, but she didn't pick up. She even stopped posting on social media, which was odd because she's usually the type to share everything from her morning coffee to random sunset pics. I reached out to her sister thinking maybe she could shed some light on what was going on. Her sister texted back a short, "Haven't seen her much, sorry," which didn't help at all. It felt like everyone was shutting me out. At this point, I started losing sleep over it. My friends tried to calm me down, saying, "She's probably just taking a breather." But that didn't sit right with me. This wasn't like her. She'd never been the type to just go radio silent, especially not on me. The weirdest part was how sudden it all felt. We were literally in the middle of choosing flower arrangements a week before she left. There were no big arguments, no signs of anything wrong. I kept replaying every conversation we'd had, trying to figure out if I'd missed something. But everything seemed fine, until it wasn't. I tried giving her the benefit of the doubt. Maybe she really did need some time alone. Maybe she was going through something she didn't know how to talk about yet. But as days turned into weeks, my patience wore thin. If something was wrong, why couldn't she just tell me? That's when I started questioning everything. Was she really staying with her sister? What if there was something or someone else going on? I hated thinking like that. But the lack of answers was driving me nuts. I spent so many nights staring at my phone, hoping for a text or a missed call that never came. Every day that passed felt heavier than the last. I tried distracting myself with work, friends, but nothing worked. I felt like my whole world was stuck on pause. After a couple of weeks of silence from Lily, I decided enough was enough. I mean, how much space does one person need? If she wasn't going to tell me what was going on, I was going to find out myself. I packed an overnight bag, fueled up my car, and made the drive to her hometown. It wasn't a quick trip, but I had plenty of time to mentally prepare for whatever awkward or uncomfortable conversation was waiting for me. I kept telling myself, maybe she's just stressed. Maybe it's not that bad. But deep down, I had this sinking feeling that things were about to get weird. When I pulled up to her parents' house, where I assumed she was staying, my heart was racing. I knocked on the door, and for a second, I thought no one was home. Then Lily opened it. The look on her face said it all. She was not expecting me. She stood there for a moment, staring at me like I was a pop quiz she hadn't studied for. Finally, she stepped aside and let me in, mumbling something about how she didn't think I'd come. We sat down in the living room, and everything felt off. It wasn't like the usual comfort I felt with Lily, where we could just sink into the couch and talk about anything. She started with small talk. "How was your drive? Did you hit any traffic? Want something to drink?" Like she was trying too hard to sound normal. I played along at first, answering her questions with short, clipped responses, but my patience was wearing thin. I didn't come all this way to discuss the highway condition. There was this long, awkward pause where neither of us spoke. She blanked out, and when she finally glanced up, I asked, "Lily, what's going on? Why haven't you been answering my calls or texts?" Her reaction was immediate. "I've been trying to figure some things out," she said finally, her voice soft, almost too quiet to hear. "Figure what out?" I was trying to keep quiet. She hesitated. She wasn't sure how to say what she needed to. The silence stretched on, and I could feel my heartbeat getting louder in my ears. Then she finally said it. "I ran into my ex when I got here. It felt like the floor had just shifted beneath me." I stared at her, trying to process what she'd just said. "And?" I asked, my voice as steady as I could manage, though I already felt the storm brewing inside me. "It wasn't planned," she said. "I saw him at the grocery store, and we ended up talking." Talking. That word hit me like a slap. It wasn't the fact that she'd seen her ex. That could happen to anyone. It was the way she said it, like it was no big deal. But it clearly was a big deal, or we wouldn't be having this conversation. I leaned forward, trying to keep my composure. "Why didn't you tell me about this earlier?" I asked. Her eyes darted to the side, avoiding mine. "I didn't want to upset you until I knew how I felt." "How you felt?" I repeated, my voice rising just a bit. "We're engaged, Lily. We're planning a wedding." "What do you mean, how you felt?" That's when she said, "I've been spending some time with him," she admitted, her voice barely above a whisper. I needed to see if there were any unresolved feelings. For a moment, I couldn't even speak. My mind was spinning, trying to wrap itself around what she just said. Unresolved feelings? We're supposed to be getting married, and you're out here playing emotional hopscotch with your ex? "I just needed to know for sure," she said. I didn't want to go into our marriage with any doubts. I felt my chest tighten, my hands clenching into fists. "So you've been ignoring me this whole time because of him?" I couldn't stay quiet. "Why didn't you tell me sooner? Why didn't you talk to me about this instead of shutting me out?" She started to respond, but I wasn't done. "What does this mean for us, Lily? Are you still trying to figure it out? Because I'm not going to sit around waiting for you to decide if I'm plan A or plan B." Her face crumpled, and for a split second, I thought she might cry. But instead she said, "I didn't want to hurt you. I needed time to sort my emotions." "Do you even hear yourself right now?" I shot back. "Leaving me in the dark for weeks was a hell of a lot worse than just being honest from the start." The conversation went in circles after that. Every time I tried to get a straight answer, she dodged it, giving me vague excuses about needing clarity and not wanting to make a mistake. I could feel my energy draining with every passing minute. By the end of it, I was done. Completely, utterly done. I stood up, looked at her one last time, and said, "I need some time to think." Exactly like what she said, and the way she said it. Her eyes widened like she didn't expect me to say that, but I didn't wait for a response. I grabbed my keys and walked out. The drive back home after that conversation was one of the longest and most surreal trips of my life. I wasn't angry, at least not in the yelling and breaking stuff kind of way, but I was hurt, really hurt. I kept replaying everything Lily said, trying to make sense of it. Unresolved feelings? What did that even mean? Why couldn't she just talk to me about it, instead of shutting me out and ghosting me for weeks? The next few days were a blur. I went to work, but I wasn't really there, you know? My coworkers asked if I was okay, and I gave the usual, "Yeah, just tired," excuse. My friends checked in too, but I didn't have the energy to explain the whole mess. Eventually, I told a couple of close friends what happened. Their reactions were a mix of shock and outrage. My buddy Mark said, "Dude, that's messed up. She should have told you the second this guy showed up." My other friend Jenna was more blunt. "If she's entertaining her ex while engaged to you, she doesn't deserve you." Hearing it from other people made me realize just how bad the situation was. But it also made me feel like an idiot. How did I not see this coming? Were there signs I missed? The thing that hurt the most was how blindsided I felt. We'd been planning our future together, choosing wedding venues, talking about where we wanted to live, even discussing names for future kids. And now all of that felt like a lie. I started going through our text messages, looking for anything that might explain her behavior. Nothing stood out. Our conversations had been normal, happy even, right up until she left for her hometown. It was like she flipped a switch the moment she saw her effing ex. One night, I decided to message her sister. I wasn't trying to drag her into the middle of things, but I needed some clarity. Her response was short and vague. "I think Lily's just going through some stuff. She'll figure it out." Figure it out? What was there to figure out? We were supposed to be a team, and now I was completely in the dark. A week later, I got a text from Lily. It wasn't an apology or an explanation, just a casual, "Hey, how are you?" Like everything was fine. I didn't respond. I couldn't. What was I supposed to say? "Oh, hey, I'm great. Thanks for ignoring me while you hung out with your ex." The silence between us grew louder. Every day that passed, I felt more distant from her, more certain that whatever we had was crumbling. I started questioning if I even wanted to salvage it. Could I forgive her? Could I trust her again? At the same time, I felt stuck. We'd built a life together. Or at least, we were supposed to. Breaking up wasn't just about ending a relationship. It meant unraveling everything we'd planned and starting over from scratch. The thought of that was terrifying. But the alternative was pretending everything was okay when it clearly wasn't. And that wasn't an option. I started thinking about what I wanted, what I deserved. I realized I couldn't stay with someone who didn't respect me enough to be honest. I couldn't marry someone who thought it was okay to put me on hold while they figured out their feelings for someone else. By the end of that week, I made up my mind. If Lily wanted to work things out, she'd have to do a hell of a lot more than send me a half-assed text. And even then, I wasn't sure I'd be able to look at her the same way again. I didn't reach out to her, and she didn't follow up after that text. The silence felt like an unspoken agreement that we were done. And honestly, as much as it hurt, it also felt like a relief. So I was starting to get used to the silence. It wasn't fun, but at least it gave me some time to think. I'd made peace with the fact that Lily wasn't coming back, and honestly, I was slowly moving on. I wasn't rushing into anything or trying to distract myself. I was just trying to rebuild some sense of normalcy. Then, like clockwork, she came back. It was a Saturday afternoon. I was halfway through rewatching a series I didn't even like that much, just something to keep my mind busy. There was a knock at the door, and I figured it was a delivery, or maybe Mark coming over to drag me out of the house. But nope, it was Lily. She was standing there like nothing had happened, smiling like she was bringing cookies to a neighbor. "Hey," she said casually, like she hadn't ghosted me for weeks. I just stood there, trying to figure out if I was hallucinating. Hey," I finally said, stepping aside so she could come in. She walked in like she owned the place, commenting on how clean everything was. She sat down on the couch, patted the cushion next to her, and said, "We need to talk." I was bracing for some kind of heartfelt apology, an explanation, something. But instead, she started talking about our wedding plans. "Our venue is still holding our date," she said, like we'd been in constant communication this whole time. "And I was thinking we should go with lavender for the table settings. It's timeless, don't you think?" I couldn't believe what I was hearing. I cut her off mid-sentence and said, "Lily, what are you doing here?" She blinked, confused, like I'd just asked her why the sky was blue. "I'm here to fix things," she said, matter-of-factly. I stared at her for a second, then laughed, sharp and cold, the kind of laugh that says, "Are you kidding me right now?" "Fix things?" I repeated, leaning forward. "You mean the relationship you hit pause on while you sorted out your feelings for your ex? That relationship?" Her face went pale for a moment. "That's over. I realized I don't have feelings for him anymore. It's you I want to be with." I stood up, pacing a little because sitting still felt impossible. "And you expect me to just believe that? To what? Take you back with open arms like none of this happened? Do you even hear how insane that sounds?" She blinked, clearly not expecting the anger in my voice. "I needed time. I didn't want to hurt you. You didn't want to hurt me? Lily, you ghosted me for weeks. You didn't think to tell me anything, not one damn thing, until I had to drive to your hometown to find out. And now you're standing here, acting like it's no big deal? It's not like that," she shot back. I was confused. I didn't know what I was feeling, and I didn't want to make things worse. Make things worse? I cut her off again, throwing my hands up. "You made things worse by disappearing on me. You left me hanging, wondering what the hell happened while you were off rekindling whatever with your ex. Do you even realize what that did to me?" She opened her mouth to respond, but I didn't give her the chance. "No, you don't," I said firmly, "because if you did, you wouldn't be here right now, expecting me to just forget everything and pick up where we left off." She looked more hurt now, but I wasn't backing down. Not this time. "I made a mistake," she said quietly, trying to play the victim. "I know I messed up, but I'm here now, and I want to make this right. I'll do whatever it takes." "Whatever it takes," I repeated, laughing bitterly. "You say that like it's supposed to mean something. But the truth is, Lily, I don't trust you anymore. How am I supposed to believe you won't pull this again the next time you get confused or need to sort out your emotions?" She looked down at her hands, fiddling with her engagement ring. My ring. I felt a flash of anger seeing it still on her finger, like she had any right to wear it after everything. "Take it off," I said abruptly. She looked up, startled. "What?" "The ring," I said, pointing to her hand. "Take it off. You don't get to keep it. Not after this." Her eyes widened, and for a moment, she looked like she might argue. But then, slowly, she slid the ring off her finger and placed it on the table between us. She stood there for a moment, looking at me like she was expecting me to change my mind, to say something that would make everything okay. But I didn't. I just stared back. My face set. My decision final. Is this really it? She asked. You're just done? Yes, I said, my voice steady. I'm done. I'm not an option, Lily. You don't get to hit pause on me while you figure out your feelings and then come back when it's convenient for you. That's not love. That's selfishness. Her lips trembled like she wanted to say something, but she didn't. Instead, she turned and walked toward the door. That night, I sat on the couch staring at the ring on the table. It felt surreal, like the last few weeks had been some twisted dream I couldn't wake up from. But as I sat there, one thing became crystal clear. I made the right decision. I wasn't going to let myself be someone's second choice, their backup plan when things didn't work out with someone else. I deserved better than that, and I was finally ready to stand up for myself. Lily was gone, and honestly, I was okay with that. And that is how things unfolded until now. If anything pops up worth posting, I'll keep you guys updated. Update 1. Hey y'all, thank you for your comments. It means a lot. I came to give you an update since things shifted in an unexpected way. So here goes. Alright, so after Lily's surprise visit, I was in this weird limbo. I wasn't ready to forgive her, but I also didn't have the energy to confront her again. It was like I was stuck in emotional quicksand. I didn't know what to do, so I did what any guy would do. I avoided the situation altogether and kept to myself. Then, out of nowhere, I get a text from Mia, one of Lily's friends. Now, Mia and I were always friendly, but we'd never really talked one-on-one. Her text said something like, "Hey, just checking in. I heard about the break and wanted to see how you're holding up." At first, I wasn't sure how to respond. Was this some kind of setup? But after staring at the message for an embarrassing amount of time, I decided to just reply with, "Hey, thanks for reaching out. I'm doing okay, I guess." Mia was surprisingly easy to talk to. She said she'd been in a similar situation before and knew how much it sucked. We ended up texting back and forth for a while, and honestly, it was nice to have someone to vent to. She wasn't pushy or judgmental, just a good listener. A couple of days later, Mia texted me again. This time, she suggested we meet up for coffee. I wasn't really in the mood to go out, but she was persistent. "Come on, it'll be good for you to get out of the house," she said. And before I knew it, I found myself agreeing. When we met up, it felt normal. Not romantic, not flirty, just two people talking. She asked about work, hobbies, even my old college stories. For the first time in weeks, I felt like someone actually cared about me. Not about the drama or the wedding or any of that, just me. But then she hit me with, "You know, you deserve someone who appreciates you, someone who doesn't take you for granted." I didn't know how to respond to that, so I just said, "Yeah, I guess." The thing is, I wasn't interested in Mia like that. She was nice and all, but I was still dealing with the mess Lily left behind. I wasn't ready to jump into anything, and I didn't want to give her the wrong idea. But Mia didn't let up. She started texting me more often, sending memes, asking if I wanted to hang out again. She wasn't overbearing, but it was clear she was trying to make something happen. I kept my responses polite but distant, hoping she'd get the hint. Then one evening, Mia asked if I wanted to grab dinner. I tried to politely decline, but she wouldn't take no for an answer. "It's just dinner," she said. "Don't overthink it." So I went. And let me tell you, it was awkward. She dressed up like it was a date, while I showed up in a hoodie and jeans. The conversation was fine, but there was this underlying tension I couldn't ignore. It was like she was testing the waters, seeing how far she could push things. When I got home, I told myself that was it. No more hanging out with Mia, at least not one-on-one. I didn't want to lead her on, and I definitely didn't want to make things more complicated than they already were. But then somehow, Lily found out. I don't know if Mia told her, if one of their mutual friends couldn't keep their mouth shut, or if Lily just has some sixth sense for sticking her nose where it doesn't belong. Either way, the next day, there she was, banging on my door like the place was on fire. Then Lily showed up at my door. No text, no warning, just pounding on the door like it was an emergency. I opened it, and there she was, all fired up and ready to go. "What the hell are you doing?" she demanded, storming past me into the living room. I shut the door, already over it. "Nice to see you too, Lily. What do you want?" She spun around, glaring. "You've been hanging out with Mia? My friend?" I crossed my arms, keeping my tone calm but firm. "I'm sorry, but what exactly makes you think you get to ask me about anything I'm doing? What makes me think, are you kidding me? She's my friend. This is humiliating." I let out a short laugh, shaking my head. "Humiliating? Lily, we're done. You don't get to show up here and play the victim. You made your choice when you walked away. So whatever I do now isn't your business." Her face twisted like she couldn't believe what she was hearing. "So that's it? You're just moving on?" I shrugged. "What did you think was going to happen? That I just sit here waiting for you to decide if I'm good enough? I came back because I realized I still love you, she shouted. Too late, I said bluntly. Honestly, Lily, maybe you should go back to your ex. Seems like you're good at circling back to old options. Her face turned red in an instant, her jaw tightening like she was trying to hold herself together. Are you serious right now? She hissed. Yeah, I'm serious, I shot back. You clearly didn't think twice about running to him before. Why stop now? Might as well make it easier for everyone. She practically exploded. You don't get to stand there and act like you're better than me. If you think I'm just going to let this slide, you're wrong. I told her, let what slide? That I'm over it? That I'm over you? Not my problem anymore, Lily. She glared at me. You'll regret this, she said, her tone sharp enough to cut glass. Don't think I won't make you regret this. I just opened the door wide and gestured to it. Go ahead, Lily. Make whatever threats you want, but you're not my problem anymore. She stared at me for a moment, then stormed out. I locked the door behind her, shook my head, and finally let out a breath. Whatever her next move was, I don't care. I'm done. And that isn't going to change. Final update. All right, guys, I came with a final update just to let you know how everything is unfolding. So, after Lily stormed out, the silence felt different this time. Not heavy, not tense, just peaceful. For the first time, I didn't feel like I had to justify myself to her or anyone else. It was over, and I was fine with that. A couple of days later, Mia texted me, asking if I wanted to grab lunch. I hesitated. Mia had been a good listener when everything with Lily fell apart, but I was starting to feel like she might see this as more than it was. I didn't want to send mixed signals or make things messy. Still, I figured one lunch wouldn't hurt, especially if I used it as an opportunity to set things straight. When we met up, the vibe was casual. We talked about random stuff, but there was this underlying energy that made me uncomfortable. She'd laugh a little too hard at my jokes, lean in a little too close, and give me that look, like she was waiting for me to make a move. About halfway through, I decided it was time to rip the Band-Aid off. Mia, look, I really appreciate you being there for me lately. It's been a lot and I'm grateful, but I want to be clear. I'm not looking for anything beyond friendship. Her face fell for a second, but she quickly recovered. Oh, yeah, of course, she said, waving it off like it was no big deal. I didn't mean to make it weird. I smiled, relieved she took it well. Thanks. I just didn't want there to be any confusion. After lunch, we parted ways, and I thought that was that. But as I walked back to my car, something caught my eye. It was Lily. She was standing half a block away, leaning against a streetlight, pretending to scroll on her phone. I'd know her posture anywhere. She wasn't just randomly there, she was watching. I froze for a second, debating whether to say something. But what was the point? She'd deny it, and it would just escalate into another argument. Instead, I got into my car and drove off, pretending I hadn't seen her. Over the next week, I started noticing her more often. She wasn't obvious about it, but she wasn't exactly subtle either. Her car would be parked down the street from my place when I came home from work, or I'd catch glimpses of her at the grocery store, ducking into another aisle when she thought I noticed. It was bizarre. She wasn't reaching out or making a scene, just lingering, like she was waiting for me to do something. One evening, I went out to grab takeout. As I was pulling into the restaurant parking lot, I saw her car again, parked just far enough away to not seem suspicious, if I didn't already know better. I didn't confront her. I just went inside, got my food, and left. But when I got home and saw her car parked down the street, I'd had enough. I didn't go to her, though. Instead, I walked straight into my house, locked the door, and pulled out my phone. I texted her, Lily, I've noticed you around. Stop following me. This isn't healthy, and it's not going to change anything. No reply. I didn't expect one, honestly, but the next day, her car was gone. The days after that felt calmer, like the ghost of her presence had finally left. I didn't see her, didn't hear from her, and for once it felt like she was truly out of my life. Mia texted me a couple more times, but I kept it friendly and distant. I wasn't about to let another situation spiral. Right now, I needed to focus on myself, on putting all the chaos behind me. Lily might still be out there, watching or waiting, but I wasn't going to let her control even a second more of my life. I was done. And this time, it was for good. And if there's one thing I know for sure, it's this. I deserve better. That's it, folks. Thanks for sticking with me through all of this. If you've got any advice, I'm all ears. Otherwise, I'll just be over here, figuring out how to start fresh. Cheers.